everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. This is Vdiffuser, in our last episode. Oh boy. We accused Damon Gant, and he managed to worm his way out of it. Looks like we managed to stay in the game. Thanks to your help, Edgeworth. Yeah, Chief. He's something else, eh, pals? Heh, I'm not a detective anymore. Sorry about that. Don't worry. Already decided where to work now. At your office. Sure, I'll take the place of that top-knotted girl you used to work with. Could he mean Maya? Still, looks like we're all out of moves now. Chief Gant's done it again. How is it he always gets the upper hand? It's not fair he has the right to refuse to testify. Settle down, Wright. Remember what the judge said. But Chief, that's not a right to be casually invoked. There are risks to be considered. That's a double-edged sword, huh? It's simple. If the Chief refuses to testify, the opposite also holds true. He forfeits his right to say anything, too. Emma! Are you okay? Yeah, when I came to, I was in the medical office. I've been listening to the trial from the gallery. So she heard everything. I'm sorry for what I said before. Don't be. It was the truth. You know, it's funny. I almost feel somehow relieved. Now I finally know what really happened. I think all this time, my sister was being blackmailed by that terrible man. And she did it all just to protect me. Ever since her appointment as chief prosecutor, everyone who knew her said she changed. Perhaps it was easier that way for her. What do you mean? What do you think I mean? To follow Chief Gant's orders. She must have shut herself up deep inside. To force herself to do everything he told her to do. That must be why she became so cold. It was all my fault. It's all because I murdered Mr. Marshall. Hey, don't go blaming yourself now. You want to blame anyone, blame society, pal. He may be able to fool everyone else with his forgery, but he can't fool my memory. I remember I knocked Mr. Marshall into that armor. Well, we better get back. It's time for the final act. Why don't you wait here? No, I'm going with you. I want to be there when Lana tells the truth. Let's go, Mr. Wright. It's time to end this. Oh, really? Trial Ladder 2. No frickin' kidding. Now then, will the defendant, Miss Lana Skye, please take the stand? You are the chief prosecutor. I'm sure you're aware of what is required of you. Mr. Edgeworth, you already know everything. You know all I've done these past 2 years. Provide the court with your testimony, Miss Skye. And remember, you're under oath. You want to hear the truth. Of course, the truth. Lana, no matter what happens, I'll always be your sister. Now, your testimony, if you will. Tell us about your relationship with Chief Gant. You're the only chance we've got. I worked alongside Gant for years. There's no truth to this blackmail theory. I fabricated the evidence 2 years all by myself. When I found Prosecutor Marshall's body, I arranged the crime scene. My only motivation was to get Dark convicted. It had nothing to do with Emma. I'm confessing to a capital offense. I'm sure. If this is true, then that means Chief Gant has nothing to do with this. That's what I've been telling you from the beginning. She's not. I know my own sister. Whenever she speaks stiffly like that, she's hiding something inside. Deep down, she's screaming in agony. Alright, time to go. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4. Really? You said you did this all by yourself. Yes. Would you mind telling us what you found when you arrived at the crime scene? I was the first person to discover the scene. The broken prosecutor award was stuck in the victim's body. But Prosecutor Marshall died from an unfortunate accident. That's only a situation you dreamed was possible. The reality is, it wasn't my sister who took the prosecutor's life. Fantasize all you want, Mr. Wright, but I'll never change this statement. You mean Prosecutor Marshall wound up being killed by Dark? Something like that? If that's so, what happened to the other murder weapon? Dark was carrying a switchblade knife. That was lying on the floor a distance away. It was knocked away in the struggle, probably. That's not how it went down. She's trying to cover it up with more lies. So what did you do? I broke off the tip of Dark's knife, planted it inside the wound, and moved the body. You planted it in the... and then you moved the body! But why? Why would you do that? You of all people should know, Edgeworth. You've always had a good head on your shoulders. My head isn't that bad. Why did you move the body? It was where you deduced it was, by Chief Gant's desk. But the body was found by your desk. Why'd you move it there? It's simple. The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan. The pieces of the jar, you mean? Yes, that wretched jar you showed us earlier. In order to show that Dark committed the crime, I felt it would be more expedient to move the body. Of course, it had been shattered to pieces. If you looked at the crime scene, it would be clear right away what happened. Neil Marshall was dead and Dark was lying unconscious. The jar must have been broken during their struggle. What's the matter? The jar shattered at the time the crime was committed. But I have a feeling there's more to it than that. Yeah, I'm not buying that. I understand how you feel. You committed that crime 2 years to protect your sister. The forgery of the scene where Neil Marshall was murdered. If that truth were to be exposed now, the past 2 years of your life will have been in vain. Even so, I'm compelled to bring to everyone's attention a significant contradiction within your testimony. A contradiction in my testimony? You testified, and I quote, "The pieces of the jar that shattered during the events threatened my plan." That's right. You have a problem with that? It's a simple oversight, really. You see, a message was written on this jar with the victim's blood. The prosecutor must have written it in his final moments. Exactly so. And this is where the contradiction lies. In order for the victim to be able to write his message on the jar, it must not have been broken before he died. He couldn't have written Emma's name on a shattered jar. Your Honor, it would appear more information is needed in regard to this jar and its bloody message. We may be missing something critical here. Something critical? Chief Prosecutor, it seems you're in the dark as we are, about the truth towards which we're headed. What? Just tell us exactly what you saw. We'll piece together the information to arrive at the truth. Very well, witness may now continue her testimony. Yeah, there's that. You were the one who wiped away the message in the blood? I wasn't chief prosecutor at the time. She didn't think Dark was the real murderer. That's why she tried to erase the real evidence. The defense now begin its cross-examination. Oh boy. Don't bother pressing. 3, 4. I said don't press. Miss Skye, I believe this jar conceals a truth even you were unaware of. We found the final piece of the jar in Chief Gant's safe. In the chief's safe? But how? I knew it. She really didn't know. There's something even more disturbing about that final piece. There was still blood on it. But the witness just testified she gathered every last piece and wiped the blood off of them. Yeah, which leaves us only one explanation. On the night Prosecutor Marshall was murdered, you were not the first one to show up on the scene. Chief Gant got there before you. But couldn't the defendant have simply missed a piece? I'm afraid that's unlikely. The pieces are too big for anyone to miss, let alone an ace detective. That maybe will be, but everyone makes mistakes. Even I once wasted an entire day looking for my dentures. They were in my mouth all along. Can you believe that? Yes, we can. Have you forgotten, Your Honor? When this witness arrived at the scene, the jar was already broken. Oh, that. There's no way a name could have been written on a shattered jar. Another person discovered the scene prior to the witness. I hope you're not implying this person was Chief Gant at the time he was looking for Dark downstairs. Even if he was there first, why would he break the jar? The question is, if he did arrive here first, why did he hide that fact for 2 years? Well, Your Honor, can you answer us that? No! Wait, I'm not the one on trial here. Damon Gant arrived at the crime scene prior to the witness. He purposefully proceeded to break the jar and hid one of the broken pieces. Question: what is this action called? Fabrication of evidence. But why would Chief Gant do that? In light of what happened afterwards, isn't it clear? What happened afterwards? Discovering the scene, Lana Skye believed her sister Emma killed the victim. She determined to help her sister, she sought Gant's aid. Lending her his aid, Gant helped create evidence that incriminated Dark, sparing Emma, and therein lies the reason. The reason why Miss Kai became the chief's puppet. Oh! Don't bite it that hard. I did it on my own. Stop trying to protect the chief. I can't watch you suffer anymore for my sake. No, you didn't. It wasn't you, Emma. You didn't kill anyone. Don't believe anything Mr. Wright says. They make up the most foul lies to defend their clients. Foul lies, huh? Imagine that coming from my own client. I guess you do seem to... Oh, shut up, Your Honor. Wait a minute. What if we're still smack dab in the middle of Gant's trap? Lana may be right after all. What do you mean, right? So you do tell foul lies. Miss Skye, testify once more. If evidence was fabricated behind your back, then Emma's accidental killing of Prosecutor Marshall might also be a lie. But I remember knocking over Mr. Marshall. Miss Skye, if you will. I can't. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. This cross-examination may not change a thing. However, there is a possibility that it will, if you tell the truth. Very well. I'll testify about what I really saw. Alright, once more for the final time. The actual crime scene. When I arrived, I found Mr. Marshall's body impaled on a suit of armor sword. Emma and Dark were lying unconscious on the floor nearby. When I saw what had happened, I thought she did it. That's why I erased all the evidence that linked her to the murder. Chief Gant helped me remove the body from the sword and carry it. But if it all really was a fabrication, Emma might be innocent. Unbelievable! The body was impaled on the armor sword. You were the only one who saw that. If only you had proof. Actually, I do have proof. I gave it to Mr. Wright just this morning. It's a picture I took of the crime scene as I encountered it. I thought it might be needed. Oh, really? Huh. Why aren't you letting me show it? No, not that. Oh, there we go. There's a picture here. And a big part is cut out from his vest. This is the actual crime scene. No other detective saw the crime like this. Because I contacted Criminal Affairs only after I had rearranged everything. Mr. Wright! That piece cut out from the vest. Could that be the cloth we found inside Chief Gant's safe? That's a handprint, isn't it? It has fingerprints on it. Whoever those are must be the real murderer. But those fingerprints are yours, Emma. Alright, time to get on. So long as you tell the truth, we should be able to flush out the real murderer. Alright. Hold it! Hey, who interrupted? Come now, Gene. This is the poorest excuse for a trial I've ever seen. Gant. What, now you want to make me out as the bad guy too? If so, I'd like to put in a word or two in my defense. You can't do that. I'm afraid it's too late for that. What? You already declined to testify. That means you forfeited your right to make statements of any sort. This must be that risk he was talking about. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of the noose tightening around your neck. He's got him. So what? You think I'm worried? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't need to make any statements. What do you mean? The evidence will do all the talking for me. If I can't testify, I can still present evidence. What, you mean, you have conclusive evidence somewhere? No, I don't. But someone does. So, what's your excuse, Righto? Why have you been keeping quiet about it? You do have something to show us, right? Something that proves who knocked over Neil Marshall, causing his death. Conclusive evidence that leaves no room for doubt. Alrighty. If you make the wrong choice, you get an instant game over. You will be the one appearing before the Board of Inquiries. We can't show that yet. I don't have any evidence I can present at this time. What? You lie! Chief Gant, you opened my safe. I know you took what was inside. That conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything odd about the chest area? It looks like part of it's been cut out for some reason. You had this in your safe. That means you, the chief of police, have been concealing evidence. This is going to be the biggest scandal in the history of the police department. And he outright admitted it. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Righto. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. You admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. It then occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, when she saw the scene, she'd ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Sky. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant the knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. Yes, and I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted. And when I tampered with the crime scene, I hid 2 pieces of evidence. This was before Lana arrived at the scene, mind you. You meant those items in your safe. But why? For insurance, of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anybody blame me for a murder that girl committed. You were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence. What do you take me for? A fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hid the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood of all the pieces. But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's to say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too? Ho 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 ho! Oh, some people just don't know when to quit, do they? No. That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come on, Righto, cough it up already. I know you have it. Alright, now we can show it. So you admit to it, Gant, that you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe. Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that being chief and all. But it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late. No, it's because we are cooperating with evidence law. As long as I don't mess up here, victory's mine. Time to show it. I do have evidence to present now. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh, yes! At last you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that it immediately be sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean, it could not have been forged. It must be authentic, conclusive evidence. Oh, you're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence. Yet he was so reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that. Do you really know? Yeah. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person who this belongs to is Emma. Emma? Emma Sky? They're mine? Sorry, Emma. Why? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, you're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still tried to pin the murder on me. It's true, tragic but true. No, it isn't. How could you? You monster! You knew whose fingerprints they were all along, yet you... Like she didn't... Miss Sky, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Ha! But I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposefully concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue. Aren't you gonna tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer. Before I do that, there's one little thing I have to clear up. Oh, and what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? What? Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you asked? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What's this fool babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is. What could it possibly contradict? Your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. What exactly is this supposed to be? This is a picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of this vest was cut out? Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh, but that piece of cloth... It doesn't have any blood. There's no blood on it! Ugh! Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on a sword at that time. There we go! No! This is nonsense! Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Lena Skye, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword? Then to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. A jar they then broke on purpose to leave behind a clue. And make Lana believe her sister did it. Ooh. Remember what you admitted only moments ago, that you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest. Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved you were the actual murderer. Checkmate, buddy. No! It's finally all over. Objection! Oh, that was close, Rhino. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegations. What do you mean you refute his allegations? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Oh, no, it's not. What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Aji? Remember, earlier, old Rhino here concealed that piece of cloth. Well, what's your excuse, Rhino? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Actually, we couldn't. It wasn't legal then. You just made it legal. Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. How did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son! I don't think so. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth? True, illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person. Assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal. Well, Mr. Wright? Alright. Time to reveal my plan. Do you admit to it? That you purposefully and illegally I did not. I admit I refused to present it at one point. Aha! So the evidence is illegal. No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't. What do you mean you couldn't? There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence, which we have been learning throughout this entire case. No, Ajit! Don't listen to his lies! He's nothing but a coward! You can't really believe— Shut up! There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not? Very well, let's settle this once and for all. You refuse to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now. We know what we have to do. Evidence law. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this cloth. However, at that point in time, this was a piece of cloth, nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying, I did not have the approval from the police department. Rule number 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case on trial. And here's the crux of the matter. You see, at the time, it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Sorry, but you can recall, when was that picture presented? That was shown only a few moments ago. No! He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. On the day of the crime, you personally cut this out. Oh yes! You're not getting out of this one. No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer, and there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant, the killer was you. I fell off my podium. I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum! For 2 years he's been snooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, and he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Starr, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. You gotta help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. And all of a sudden, he decided to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There's too many questions left unanswered. He opened his evidence locker, and as he was taking the evidence out, he said, "It's not too late. I'm going to hand this over to Marshall." Well, to be honest, I was a bit taken back by his words. I had a bad feeling when he came to see me, but I never thought he'd bring up SL9. That's when I saw it. That accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. Doing so would have only led to more blood, making it near impossible to hide your crime. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I hurried to wipe it up. I was worried so much about the floor I didn't realize my fatal mistake. The bloody handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker. I used to be known as the crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Can you put the body in my car? Sorry, I couldn't think of any other way to move the body. I broke your trunk, but what's the big deal? You make a lot more than us detectives ever will. Yeah. Leaving the prosecution's car aside. How? How could you get Miss Skye involved in all this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I felt bad for having to do it. I also didn't have the time to pick and choose what to take. So you left the jar fragments and the glove. Yeah. Looks like I was better off being an investigator of crimes than a committer. Oopsie doopsie. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well, much to their dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well among close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, why do you stand in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day, you'll understand. Oh, believe me, you will. You're just one man. You'll see what it really takes to bring them down once you try to go it alone.
Have no doubt, I'm in control. You may think chasing ghosts